On this episode, we got special guests in the building. What do you think, Coach?
I always say I have no real talent in life, but I know when I see a star. And I was sitting next to a star today, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Guy's good, really good. You can tell he's got deep care for his athletes, and I'm just so excited to follow his career. And I'm a Vanderbilt football fan now for life, so appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome just to sit next to you, Fahd, and kind of listen to the things you talked about and listen to the care that you have for the program and the kids. And I learned a lot, and I know that the guys listening to this are going to learn a lot from this.
You know, there's usually a common thread with any of the really elite strength coaches that we've interacted with. You know, they're deeply passionate about the craft, they're practitioners themselves, and that they kind of had to start at the bottom and work their way up, and this is no different here. There's a lot of life lessons in this one.
Yeah, I think that what I love is just the care for the athlete, the practitionership, and I think there's so many different lessons within this podcast. It was all over the place, and there's a lot of life lessons, and just in general, man, like, I'm excited that we can have coaches like yourself come on here and we get to rap with it, because I always say this about podcasts. To have a pinpointed quality conversation for this long is hard to do in regular life. But as soon as you put these headphones on, we can get some quality, and there's definitely that in this show. So let's roll the show. Coach's Clinic Podcast. I'm your boy, Corey G. We got Coach Mike Deegan, Tyler Treadway, and Dustin Myers. Brought to you by MaxEverMuscle.com and Sam Adams. Special guest in the building, Fahd Jindani, assistant strength coach at Vandy Football. We got a D1 guy on
Big
today,
time.
boy. But sounds like D3 roots, which is
D3
going to be
roots.
exciting to hear
Always
from.
through
So,
and through.
listen, coming in town to hang out at the gym, train. Me and Trevor's like throwing him into some content today. So, first question out the gate is like, what made you want to come to Granville, Ohio? Like, what was you reached out to us. Like, obviously, we're excited to have you here, but it's like, I always like the guys that are in positions like yours that are doing extremely well. It's like making a pilgrimage here is always like, you know, feels to me like a blessing for us. So I'm just kind of want to hear that first, to be honest.
I'll tell you what, man. It traces back to my time in college.
Okay.
So right about my junior year, I dislocated my knee, tore everything up in it,
Okay.
and I was rehabbing to get back. And what I was doing for rehabbing, it was like crushing my body. Like, and coming back from a knee injury, like weather, all this stuff affects it. Days where 2-3 days goes and I'm good, the next day I'm hurting. Like, I can't do half the stuff I was doing the day before.
Okay.
So I was like, I need to do something. It's a Division III school. We don't have funding. They gave us a mass gainer, and you'd get 2 scoops every morning. If you wanted to come back in the afternoon, you get 2 scoops again. And that's it. And nutrition-wise, I mean, strength coach did his best, but like we talked about, he's got 12 other teams.
Yeah.
You know, so
At
he
least.
can't- Yeah, at least. And we had 24 teams, 2 coaches. So it's 12 sports per coach. And so I was just researching, and I found a company called Muscle Farm.
Okay.
And I looked at all the supplements, took all the supplements, and it was you that brought me to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was done playing, I was like, I've trained for football for like 13 years. I don't know what else to do. Do I bodybuild? Do I powerlift? I'm like, I'm winning one day to squat heavy, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore right now. Like, my body is trashed.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know what to do. And it was your programs that you put up.
Bodybuilding.com stuff.
Yeah.
Got
and
it.
I was just like following that to a T, and just followed you all the way through to when you started Max Effort. So when you had reached out originally, I was just like, oh shit, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do
That's
this.
cool.
And then trying to find the right time, schedule, and the way our schedule set up, we had 4 days of straight training, had a day of recovery. I'm like, I can get away this weekend. And I was like, all right, get in the car
Hell
after
yeah.
work on Thursday and just made the trip out.
Love it. Well, we're really glad to have you here, man. It was
Yeah.
awesome having you in the gym this morning, and I'm excited to pick your brain. Start way back, though. How do you learn, you know, in early lifting, you know, kind of background, and then we'll kind of roll from there.
Okay. So first time I ever touched a weight was probably 8th grade.
Okay.
You know, I never lifted weights before, never took protein. My parents growing up were the type of people who were like, you know, protein is steroids.
Yeah.
Can't take any of that.
Yep.
And it's crazy to think that now. But didn't know anything in terms of lifting. You know, played high school ball, wrestled, and then eventually just stuck with football because that's what I want to do, and ended up getting an opportunity to play at Division III. Like all Division III athletes, my mind was set, I want to play in the NFL.
Of course.
You know, the odds of that happening, slim.
Yeah.
Slim.
Start to realize that,
Come
right?
on.
Yeah.
And you don't know it then. Like,
I thought I was going to the NBA too, so I get it.
You're oblivious, man. You're oblivious to it. And so when that was done, you know, I was like, I don't know what I want to do now. And so rehabbing my knee, I had a strength coach who is now with the Los Angeles Rams.
Okay.
And he was working in the PT clinic that was there. And, you know, that whole process, I was like, man, this is awesome. This is what I want to do. The summer prior to that, I interned in a PT clinic. I hated it. I mean, it was boring. Like, it was quiet. I'm wearing a button-down shirt. I'm wearing khakis. There's like light elevator music playing.
Not your vibe.
I'm just like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. And it was one of my high school coaches who I was shadowing, and he asked me, what'd you think? I'm like,
fucking horrible.
This is miserable.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how you do this every single day. Like, it was boring to me. It's important.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
for me, it was just like, this isn't the environment I want to be in. And then my strength coach, when I was done playing, was like, you want to intern in the weight room? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm cleaning equipment, spotting guys, asking them questions. And he was like, you want an internship, but it doesn't pay anything when you graduate. I'm like, oh, that's cool because I don't know what I want to do with my life anyways right now. And so my football coach was like, you want to work here part-time. You know, the pay it was like a 6-month, $6,000 contract.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I had to work an overnight job just to do it. And the whole reason I took that job as a coach was so I could work in the weight room. And from there, you know, I was just trying to find my feet. Like, how can I turn this into a career? How can I learn from this? He's giving me books to read. He's telling me what to do. And it's just like, I need more. I need to open myself up and surround myself with other people and trying to get my foot in the door. And how? So he gave us an assignment, reach out to 6 strength coaches. 1 strength coach got back to me, and that was Ken Manny at Michigan State.
Okay.
And one just replied back to me. I won't say who he is, but just like, it's busy time. We don't really have a lot of time to just give me the runaround. We don't have time to do any of this stuff. And I was like, all right, whatever. Ken Manny gave me like 4 articles to read. I want you to read these 4 articles. I'm like, okay, cool. And then he goes, I'm going to call you at 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, shit. Like, this dude, Michigan State, Ken Manny, he's like, this is my strength coach's idol getting ready to call me.
That's cool.
And so he talked to me on the phone for like an hour. He said, this is my cell phone number. If you ever need anything, reach out. And from that point on, I'm like, this is awesome. Like, that's what it's supposed to be. People reaching out, helping.
Mm-hmm.
And so decided, okay, I need to get a degree in exercise science. So I went to grad school. GA'd there. From there, interned at Holy Cross, interned with University of Iowa football, which landed me at Vanderbilt with a connection. And from there, just people I met, the opportunities I had to just run my own programs, and landed me here.
Amazing. Hell yeah, Coach.
Man, there's so many different directions I could go here and I want to circle back to this at some point, not now. But this idea when you were young and your parents thought protein was bad. No.
We've been fighting that for years,
I want to
Mike.
go back to that because I had that same relationship as a kid, and I want to get back to this. I think we can educate some people on that at some point. Mm-hmm. Mine was with creatine. My dad was like, "That's going to kill you. That's going to stop you." So anyway,
that's still out there.
That's still out there.
But I think it's really important we hit on that. 'Cause I think that's some knowledge, like that's some accurate knowledge. That's like the truth about those things. I did want to share a quick story. This is about me, but I have a very similar story on my start. We had just won our first national championship in 2006. This is going to connect. But I sent out 25 emails to the top 25 Division I coaches in the country. Said my wife was teaching at the time, so she had a full-time job. We didn't have kids, and I was like, "Hey, I'll work for free." Basically, I didn't hear back from 24 of them. Not one word. One person, and it was Vanderbilt's baseball coach, Tim Corbin, who wrote back, and it wasn't just like a sentence. It was like a full-on email.
Wow. Like he took his time.
He's an Ohio Wesleyan guy. So anyways, Division III, he writes this really long thing. I did a little research, and I heard that he was like an early riser and that kind of stuff. I wasn't at the time. So I formulated an email at night and had it ready. I set my alarm at 5 a.m. to send it.
So good.
So I set my alarm. So all I had to do was get up and hit send.
Yeah.
Boom. Went back to bed because I wasn't about that.
I like the honesty, Coach.
I wasn't about it.
Give him the appearance.
Yeah. I was up early riser. But here's the cool thing about that story. So when I wake back up at 8 or whatever it was, he had responded by 5:35 a.m. with the long thing.
Oh, he's an early riser.
He invited me down to watch practice, but I was going on a job interview in my mind. You know, I could go watch practice, but I was going to present myself. But anyways, I really appreciate that story of how you have to get started. Sometimes it's not easy. It's not glamorous. People think it's going to be one phone call. It's going to get your foot in the door.
No, not
for
at
you,
all.
it took a lot. So, anyways, I just wanted to share that story for people that are listening and how they're going to get their foot in the door. It takes some work, right? It takes some effort. It takes some failure. And I'm sure there's been times where you're going like, where am I going to go with this thing? But here you are.
I mean, yeah. I think the crazy thing about it is that, and me and Treadway were talking about this morning, that there are a lot of people in the strength and conditioning field that's just ego-driven. And it's like I remember going to my first ever strength and conditioning conference. I'm in grad school. I'm wearing the polo. I want everybody to know I'm trying to present myself. I got business cards they gave us. I'm nervous. I'm like, I don't know what to talk to these people about. I don't want to sound like an idiot in front of these people. And the amount of people who just didn't pay me the attention. And I'm like, I'm 24 years old, 25 years old. I'm trying to establish myself, and it's almost like you don't care. Now, there are coaches who would talk to me, coaches who actually walked up to me, shook my hand, oh, you went to Springfield College? Like, yeah, I know so-and-so at Springfield College. I got a great strength and conditioning program. And we get talking, and then they'll introduce me to other coaches. But to me, that was like my first glimpse of, wow, like this is the type of field this is. You have people who care, who want to help you, people like Corbin who want to help you, who are going to reach out. And this is a guy who I had never met, Coach Corbs.
Yeah.
Ever. And I'm going on year 2 at Vandy. Had never walked into the baseball facility before. Knew the baseball strength coach. And I'm walking into an all-staff meeting. And this shows you the type of person he is. I walk up, and I see him. So I want to introduce myself to him. And I walk up to him. I was like, hey, Coach. And he goes, Fahd Jindani, I know. And I'm like, oh, shit, this guy knows my name.
How about that?
I'm like, I've never met you. I was shocked. You know, we talked for a minute, and I went up and I sat down. I'm like, how the hell did he know my name? Like, he's never in this building. He has no reason to come in a football building. He has no reason to even know who I am. But he took the time, because he was close with our football coach, to know the staff. And he goes, yeah, I know you. I know who you are. And we were talking. I'm like, this guy's awesome. And when you walk into the building, all the players there, they're sitting up straight. They introduce themselves to you.
Isn't that crazy?
And that's the culture that he built there. It's when someone walks into your building, they're a guest. You treat them as a guest. You treat them with respect. You reach out to them. You know, you introduce yourself to them, find out who they are, find out something about them, and tell them a little bit about yourself. And when I went in there to lift one day, that's what all the players did. They would come in as I'm lifting, introducing themselves, and I was thrown off by that too, because I'm like, man, this is a culture, and it's a championship culture.
It's intimidating as hell, because you're sitting there. You're sitting there like.
I'm sounding like we need a trip, bro.
Yeah,
I like that. I like what I'm hearing.
It's wild, but it doesn't make you. It's amazing how you have those different perspectives of those people who didn't talk to you, but it really probably shapes you. I can hear in your voice that you're that person now. That when you see a young strength coach at a convention, you're going to go up and say, "Hey, how you doing, man? Good to see you."
Because I mean, you have to be.
Isn't that wild?
You have to be, because at the same time, it's whether I'm going to do this for 25 years or whether I'm done next year. You know, at some point, I was trying to get my foot in the door. I was trying to get my feet wet. And if I forget that aspect of it, then I've lost myself as a strength coach. It doesn't matter if I'm at a Division I level or Division III level. I'm Division III through and through.
That's right.
You know, I've seen the nitty-gritty bottom of it, you know. I've seen the meals where we ran out of food because the hotel wasn't properly equipped to handle us.
So you don't have the hotel eggs anymore, right?
No, not at all. Or I'm sitting there in North Carolina, and my strength coach comes up to me and goes, "Hey, don't eat the food." I'm already 3 bites in. I'm like, I'm like, why? He goes, there's pork in it, and it's cooked in bacon grease. And I'm like, oh, damn. I'm like, they didn't prep for this one. So then I'm going to McDonald's across the street trying to get some food because I didn't have team meal or team dinner, or we didn't have enough chicken to feed the guys. So, like, that aspect of my life will never be forgotten. And so, like we talked about before, when I get to Division I, it's just like, oh, we're chartering planes?
Yeah.
It's like that now,
I
player?
didn't know. Like, I'm going through my bag. The first game, we're going to South Carolina, my first time at Vandy, my first road game. I'm like, okay, I can't have this. I can't have this size. I'm looking up, like, okay, what size is, like, can I take my beard oil? Can I not take my beard oil? What am I supposed to do? And we pull up onto the bus, and one of our assistants who played in Minnesota, Division I football, we're walking through, and I'm just like, yo, Aaron, where are we going? He was like, to the plane. I'm like, okay. Not telling me much. Go through security, and we walk right onto the tarmac. And I'm like, confused. He's like, what's wrong? I'm like, don't we have to, like,
Go through the whole.
yeah, like, isn't there, like, TSA? He goes, nah, man, this is D1. We charter. I'm like, shit, I could get used to this.
Yeah, facts.
No more
Facts.
14-hour bus rides.
Yeah.
You know, but, yeah, like,
But it's so good that you saw that perspective, right? Like
Has to,
you've lived that the rugged life to be able to enjoy, to actually be able to enjoy what you're doing now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. To put one little bow on the Coach Corbin thing. And so in 2006, he said, I appreciate you coming. He goes, but I should be asking you guys just won a national championship. We haven't won anything yet. I should be asking you questions. So think about the humility of that, right? Like, I'm in his building. You know, he wasn't Tim Corbin yet, but he was curious on how we did things at a Division III school, which is wild. So I think there's just a lesson there that I wanted to share as well. So off the fanboy of Coach Corbin, but
That's
I
pretty
didn't
cool,
want, I
though.
didn't want to, I think that's
Sounds like I need to fanboy more.
yeah, unreal, unbelievable. So
Yeah, that's real cool. Go, Troway.
Yeah, so we shared a couple conversations this morning, but hearing the journey from Division III to Division I, you've definitely seen all levels of it, right? You've been through the grind or whatever people want to call it, but we had the conversation about a lot of strength coaches are very protective of that environment, and they want you to have to suffer in order to get to where they're at. So what kind of keeps you different from wanting to allow people to experience the things that you've experienced without making them have to go through the hardships that you've had to go through, or you know what I mean? We've all heard the stories. We've all been there. You want to be a strength coach, you're like, all right, cool, you're going to work the next 9 months for free. And then when you get there, they finally give you a salary. Speaking from experience, I did a 9-month internship for free, and then they offer me a salary, and it's about half what I'm making at my 9 to 5. And then I know my hours are going to triple, but it's the rite of passage or whatever they want to say. And, we can all say, that's kind of dumb or whatever. But why do you not make people have to go through what you went through to get where you're at?
I wouldn't say that I don't make them have to go through it. I think it helps having to go through it. Because it gives you a much deeper appreciation of it. Like, when I was at CNU working, like, I was making $10,000 for the whole year. I worked for free for 2 months because they just didn't have a contract for me. And so I'm recruiting, and my meals are coming from when I'm traveling and recruiting. And the best I ever ate was when I was traveling for recruiting, going to Northern Virginia, because they're like, oh, we'll just expense that. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to Outback and get a steak.
Yeah. Outback Longhorn.
Yeah,
They're undefeated.
I'll tell you what, the best steak I ever had at that time, because I'm just like, this is what it is.
Hell yeah.
But part of it was just like me understanding, okay, I had people that could help me. I had my brother who would, ask me randomly, hey, how are you doing with money? And I lied my ass off. I said, I'm good. Don't worry, I'm good. When I'm not. And all good. I'm working overnights at Walgreens 3 days a week. I'm going from practice, getting changed, going home, eating a quick dinner, and Walgreens was right smack dab in the middle. And working there overnight. From there, going straight to the facility for lift groups. Then I had prep for practice, and I got practice, and then I had the night off, and I worked the next night. I think it just made me understand that putting myself through a situation like that where I'm scrumming for cash, I may have run out of food because I didn't budget properly, makes me understand that I never want to go back to that point. And it's something my wife didn't know about about my life. And she asked me, before we got married, we're looking at an apartment, and being in Nashville is a little expensive, and I kind of gave her a little background of it. And then she was like, we got to talk about something different. This is completely different. Like, I didn't know any of this. And I'm like, yeah, like, you have to go through some type of struggle to understand that I felt that, I know that, and I'm never going back to that. And we have interns that come in, and I'm like, look, you don't have to work that way. If you want to get a job at night and put signs up for real estate companies or bartend, go do it. We'll help any which way possible. But there's going to be struggle with it. There has to be struggle with it. You have to understand how hard life can be in order for you to, when you get there, appreciate it much more and understand I'm doing everything I can possible to never go back there again.
See, now, so when I hear this, number one, I think is, you're fortunate you were a very dedicated individual, dedicated to your craft, and this is what you wanted. And obviously that struggle helped shape you. But the other side of it that I hear is this is part of the problem with the strength conditioning world, especially at the university level. Think about how many other quality, possible great coaches have been lost because there's not the financial support. You got someone straight out of college, maybe even guys that have or men or women that have their master's degree. Now they're expected to work for free for a year or have to work midnights at Walgreens.
Some people just ain't willing to do it.
Not just willing to, or maybe just even can't because of whatever their
Yeah.
situation is. Maybe they're married,
True.
they got kids, whatever. So I think, and I don't know how much you are on like the strength conditioning world on Twitter, but you'll see people post like these job openings. So, they're looking for, someone that's, they need to have their CSCS, master's degree required. It's 80 hours a week. It's all this. And the starting salary is, $24,000 a year.
Yeah.
Things like that. And it's just like people post it like, is this a joke? Think of like any other profession where that would be like the entry level for someone with that high qualification.
What's crazy is though, and you worked for free for a year and a half at Ohio State before you had got your. So it's like the entry point and the hardship is part of it, but then also that always being like the expectation after you go through all this schooling and have all of these high credentials to work for that is kind of ridiculous, right? So it's like it's weird. I go back and forth with it because you guys aren't sitting in those chairs being able to say what you're able to say if you don't go do that. Mm-hmm. But then I also agree that part, Dust, what you just said, is why I didn't do it. Well, I was like, I'm not about to go do all this and go work for $30,000.
And to be fair, the reason I was able to work for free for a year and a half is
because you had another business.
I already had an established business. I was already making money, But if this would have been, let's say, 10 years earlier, even though it would have been the same tremendous opportunity for my career, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah.
So I guess it just makes me think that, especially these universities that have the money, I think they should pay the strength coaches more.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Obviously.
Or if not,
we all agree with. I think we all agree with that.
I guess that was my point. It's not that struggle is bad or that you shouldn't have to pay your dues or anything like that. But I just feel like it's a really underappreciated aspect of collegiate athletics.
I agree with that.
I think the strength coaches are underpaid and underappreciated.
Yeah,
I think you need double your salary right now.
After you went and showed that your value is there, the value should be paid.
Correct.
That I agree with that. 100%.
It's such an interesting dance. Coaching, especially at the small school level, is not much different. I mean, you're looking at assistant coaches making $5,000-$10,000, a stipend or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It does make you just kind of reflect a little bit. One, you are going to miss out on a lot of good people. But on the other side of that, the other coin is like there is a vetting process almost because everybody thinks like they want to be a coach. Like, oh, I love the coach. But they like the shiny, beautiful part of it. They like the games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All that stuff behind the scenes, they're not ready for all that. So in some ways, like there is a vetting process you have to go through. Now, to live in poverty and to do all that's not right.
Not
either,
if you spend 200 racks on college.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But you get the dance though about how it can be a little bit of a dilemma.
But the hours and the grind of it, because it's not a normal. I'm going to work for 8 hours.
That's
a day
right.
To go. Like there are some days where, I'm going to have a 12-hour day. There are some days I'm going to have a 16-hour day. There are some weeks where I'm going to go 16 hours straight.
Yeah.
There are times of the year where I'm only going to have one day off. And that's my day to, grocery shop, if I got other errands to run, to cook, to clean.
Is that right now you're referring to?
But that,
yeah.
I mean, that's
still that's still your reality.
That's still the reality of it because
Yeah.
strength coaches, like you look at the fact, like I'm here Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm around the athletes the most. Saturdays, you're going in for recovery because you want to keep the weight room open for them. You know, like otherwise
The
what are
athletes
the
have
kids
more
gonna do?
touches with you than the head coach or
Yeah.
maybe even the position coach.
It's wild. You know, the name around here, Urban Meyer. You know, he made was it Mickey Marotti?
Yeah,
his
Marotti,
name.
yep.
That was like his number one hire right away because he said
Absolutely.
the strength coach is going to have the most touch points, and they have way more of an impact than anybody on our staff. So, anyways, you do see the value in it. Now, it's not always compensated at that level,
Yeah.
but I think people recognize like the touch point of a strength coach is invaluable.
Well, and some of those guys are starting to get compensated at the quality levels now too. I mean, Marotti's makes some pretty good cash. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
But Mariah's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah,
too. You know, like
for
he's
sure.
been- and he's got, and the university saw it. The university saw there's value in this guy.
Yeah.
And they promoted him to. I think he's assistant AD, right?
Oh,
now.
he
yeah,
is.
yeah.
And I think he might oversee all of sports performance because, you know, you look at it, a program, any sport program, it's the head coach's word, the head coach's culture that he or she is setting. And the person that has to carry that out first has to be the strength coach.
Yeah.
Because in the winter, in the summer, who's repeating what the head coach is saying in meetings?
Yeah.
Who's repeating that culture? It's the strength coach. And then he is saying to his assistants, you know, you repeating what I'm repeating. And we have to believe it. And if you don't believe it, you see it in the coaches. It's like, all right, well, I got to bring someone in who does believe
That's
it.
right.
And it's the strength coaches who spend the most time, and they're the ones. And that's why the first hire, and this isn't biased for me because I'm a strength coach. It may sound like it. But the first hire of a head coach has to be a strength coach.
Without a doubt.
It all starts there. Like the X's and O's are great, and I can draw up great X's and O's. But if I don't have an equipped athlete to put on the field who can sustain those hits, who can play with the speed. I mean, you saw Georgia and TCU.
Yeah.
Play with the speed, and they got dominated up front. Why? Because Georgia's offensive line or defensive line just dominated them. And that was a deciding factor going into it. And that falls genetically, yes. But how can I reach that genetic potential that athlete has? It's not going to come from sitting in a meeting room. It's the God's honest truth. It's going to come from in the weight room.
Yeah.
You know?
They said there was something Marotti. There was like a ceremony where he would hand off the guys almost to the coaching staff. Like,
Yeah.
these guys are ready now. They're warriors.
Yeah,
They're ready to
they're
go.
yours.
They're strong. They're fit. Like we did our part. Not we. You know, it's obviously continues through the season, but in that off season where the coaches don't touch them as much, they got to be ready to rock. If they're not ready to rock and roll, if they're not ready for that handoff, you have no shot. And that's football is the most obvious because of the physicality of it.
Yeah.
But I'll say the same thing holds true for baseball. If our guys aren't healthy, strong, ready to go, when we get to touch them for the first time, we're pushing the rock uphill the whole way.
Yeah.
We're playing from behind to start the season, and that's not where you want to be. I couldn't agree more. Any level, I've talked about it here with youth athletes. I said, hey, I think the best investment you can make in a youth athlete is get them around really good strength and conditioning people, because it all starts there. And then you can tweak mechanics and all those things. Those things come later on.
Make a stronger, more powerful human. The skill, it's going to be there.
It's much easier to teach the skill at that point,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
If you have a big, strong, fast athlete.
Talk about your head guy that you work with, just like some of the things you've learned and who about him a little bit real quick.
Clark Lee's very detailed.
Yeah.
Very detail oriented, and he's trying to change and is changing the culture of this program
Okay.
to just it being a player-run program, player accountability. And it's very easy for, you know, if a guy shows up late to a lift, all right, well, you're showing up late. You are choosing to do a separate workout. It's not a punishment. We're going to go do a separate workout, but then you still got to clean, you still got to squat, you still got to bench, so we're going to go do this too. With him, it's, yeah, the coaches can say it, but it can't just be the coaches. You know, when it comes time to game, during practice, I can coach you up all I want. During training, I can coach you up for the 6 weeks in the winter. But in that 7th week when we're testing before you go into that squat max, I can't coach your technique on a squat max.
Yeah.
When you're putting 100% on the bar or 105% on the bar, I'm not checking your technique because you're going to resort to what you know best. What you know best has to be what I've taught you.
Yep.
With him, it's on game day. I'm not on the field with you. Your position coach is not on the field with you.
But your homies are.
But your homies are.
Yeah.
So they have to hold you accountable.
I like that.
You have to play for them. That's something that a brotherhood is something that we've established there. And it's still growing, and it's going to take time.
Yeah.
But we understand, and our guys understand, that you have to play for each other, and you have to play damn near perfect in this conference to compete with teams like Georgia, to compete with teams like Alabama. You know, this year we played the number 1 team.
You got no
twice in
off
the
weeks,
country.
bro.
No.
The SEC ain't got no off weeks.
Not at all. And you understand that.
Yeah.
They see it. They understand it. And that's what Coach Lee's instilling in them. And it all came to fruition when we beat Kentucky.
Yep.
And in the locker room, it was like you saw the guys' faces like, this is what it's like. When we play together, we play as a team. You know, we worry about our assignments and our assignments only. Because when you're trying to do someone else's assignments, that's where the gap ends.
Yeah.
You know, play as a unit, play as a team, and just worry about one play at a time. And we beat Kentucky, and you saw the guys' faces like, wow, that was hard.
Hell yeah.
That was hard. And I'm sitting on the sideline like I'm losing 2-3 years of my life in those games.
That's big, man.
But it's like
That was huge for the program.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then the next year, beating Florida for the first time since like 1980.
Next week, right? Not next year.
Oh, the next week.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Next
I
week,
saw that, yeah.
beating Florida for the first time since 1980.
Was that at home or was that at Gainesville?
That was at home.
Wow, that had to be
Yeah,
That was at home.
electric.
That was amazing. The fans rushed the field. It was.
That's
it
like
was
goalpost come
incredible.
down type of game.
Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm like,
and Vanderbilt's really not known for that, right? So it's
No.
like you guys are becoming more known, and the fan base will, especially the kids, are going to absolutely go crazy when that's like
Yeah.
more of
And
what's happening.
the thing that I noticed, and it shocked me when I first got here, was how many UT fans are in Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt's the school, but there's billboards of new UT coach hired on my drive home from work.
Damn.
And, you know, Coach Lee said it best. He was like, I don't want to see UT billboards, UT fans in Nashville. Vanderbilt has to be the team of Nashville
Yeah.
because we're here, and we have to establish that fan base. We have to make them know that we are a team that's going to compete,
And you got to win to do that.
and you got to win to do that.
So can you? I'm just curious on game day. This is a very basic question, I know, but I found I did some stuff with pro teams this year, and I was in the dugout during some pro games, minor league games. But there's a demeanor and presence that you have to have in that dugout. I'm just trying to think, what do you do as the game's going on? Like how do you interact during the game? Obviously, you don't want to get in there and give some X's and O's tips. But what do you? I say that it's silly, but some people want to get overly involved. Like, what's your approach? Because you're gonna get laughed out of the or told to get the heck off the sidelines, right? So what do
Yeah.
you do on the sidelines?
I definitely want to.
Yeah,
Like
it's
when I
hard.
see- when I
Well,
see a
because you
guy-
know football, too.
when I see
Yeah.
a guy, when I see a guy come in, from behind trying to make a tackle and he doesn't know the right way to strip the ball, I'm like, I can't say it. I can't say it. It's not my job. But for us, it's making sure that body language,
Yeah, they're up.
body
Huh.
language
Yeah.
this is what stuck out to me the most. My first year, I knew nothing about this team. I got there the first week of the season, halfway through that week.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I hit the ground. I mean, running 4 lift groups that day. I had I hadn't met with HR yet.
Like, you don't know any of the kids.
I'll say no relationship.
Yeah, I mean.
I don't know any of I haven't been introduced yet. Like, we had to go right in off the field of practice, and like we're going, and then finally the head strength coach was like, hey, this is Fahd. He's a new assistant. And the guys are coming up introducing me. I'm just like, hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah.
But we started out amazing, 3-0.
that.
We played Kansas State at home, beat them 14-7. And the stadium was sold out, packed. It was electric. I mean, amazing. And I'm like, wow, this team is good. Like, we're good. And then we got Alabama coming in, and they flexed that to a primetime game on CBS. I'm like, okay, this is going to be tough. But I don't know. We'll see what this team is made of. And this is my 4th week, and I remember seeing Alabama come out on the field. It's the first time I've seen them in person. My family came out for this game. And I'm like, oh, my God, these boys are huge.
Yeah.
Were you a little starstruck at all?
It's like a pro team walking up.
Like seeing Nick Saban, like, you know what I mean? Like, were you cool with that? Is that?
For some reason, I was cool with it.
It's cool.
Maybe because I was like, oh, yeah, I'm on the sideline. I'm Division I. Yeah, but I was just like, oh, man. I wasn't like, damn, that's Nick Saban over there. My dad wasn't in the stands. He was just like tapping my brother. Hey, that's him.
That's the goat. Right?
Yeah, that is.
But I remember we came out on offense. We won the toss. And we threw an interception in 2 plays. Our tight end was open, just tipped off his fingers right in front of our sideline. All right, mistakes happen. We were good. And their offense comes out, and they score in 3 plays.
Bryce Young comes trying.
They go right at you.
I mean, it's Jalen Hurts.
Jalen
Oh,
Hurts.
my
Yeah,
bad,
yeah,
my
that's
bad,
right,
my
This
bad.
was
yeah.
2017.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
Jalen Hurts and Tua as their quarterbacks. This is the
Two
year,
of the premier NFL quarterbacks currently.
This is the year that Alabama and Georgia played in the Natty, and we played them within 2 weeks of each other. And so they scored in 3 plays, and I'm like, okay, yeah. And I saw the body language of our sideline go down. And I'm like thinking to myself, did you guys not think they were going to score?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, they're the number 1 team in the country. And the game didn't turn out the way they won 59-0, I think. But it was just that. It was body language.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that says a lot about your demeanor as a team.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm on the opposing sideline and I'm seeing the guys just like this, or hands on their hips, or just walking up to the line, or if I see a defensive lineman on a knee in between huddles, I'm like, this body language is shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got him.
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
gonna
ropes.
eat him.
Yeah. Momentum has just been shifted my way. And I didn't even have to try.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that we changed over the offseason. And I was fortunate enough to be kept on when this new staff, or rehired when this new staff came in. But that was one of the things in my mind, I'm like, that has to change. Like in training, you're going to be faced with situations where, yeah, we're going to make sure it's hard. And there are going to be some things that we're going to set you up for failure. I'm going to load 6 plates each side on a prowler because I know you're not going to move it. But I want to see how you respond to it. Are you going to give up?
I think you learn a lot about athletes right there.
You do.
A
You
ton.
learn which athletes that when shit hits the fan and my back's against the wall,
Yeah.
I'm going to ride with him.
Can you improve that?
Can you improve it?
You know what I mean? You learn a lot about in that moment.
Mhm.
Like the person who doesn't respond the way you want them to respond in that moment. Have you seen guys make
I
improvements?
have.
That's
It's,
cool.
it's just exposure.
Exposure to it, yeah, because
It's
coach says
exposure
it's
to
not
it.
a
not terminal.
You're not terminal that you're always soft.
Yeah.
Like that's not a death
I
sentence.
think coaches want to throw that out there a lot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's just soft. I've always said it. Nah, he was soft in that moment, but you can
Yeah.
improve. You know what I mean? So I'll let you
don't-
go on that.
Well, I think the strength coach can fix it a lot easier than the position coach.
Yes,
No doubt.
yes,
And
which
I-
is
and-
why it's so important. Dave.
Yes.
Honestly, you're putting on 25 pounds of padding running at another grown-ass man full speed. You're not soft. Like, when they say-
Yeah.
whoever you are.
Come on, like you're not like that. That shit
right.
hurts, man.
Yeah.
And even if you lay,
I like that
hit,
clip right there, Bob.
Even if you lay a big hit in a game, and like I just stuck this dude, and I don't feel anything. It's those hits where you know, man, when I wake up tomorrow morning,
Yeah, you gonna feel it.
Yeah.
You
I'm
paying
not,
it.
I'm not turning my neck to the left for a few hours the next morning. So I don't like when. I hate the term soft. I think it's just a little mentally weak.
Yeah.
Is the thing. You're not soft if you're playing a game of football. You can't be. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. Why would you want to put that? Why would you want to expose yourself to that? Like I think my dad's the one who said it best to me one day. He was like, "There's something wrong with you mentally. If you want to do all of that, put on all that padding, and go hit another man over and over and over and over again. Sometimes you're going to be the one getting hit. Like you're not right in the head." This is my dad's exact term. You ain't right in the head. I'm like,
So
yeah,
if that's
I
the
know.
baseline, you know if they're getting like a little wiggly on a sled push, you could get that out of them.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Absolutely, and it's just exposing them to it. It's like,
Yeah.
I see my teammates, I see my brothers doing it, but I'm not doing it. And it's one of two things. It's either I'm going to learn from that, or the unfortunate part about it is I'm not going to figure it out in that moment. And it's not going to be a moment to where I'm going to learn it now, but I'm going to expose it to you again. And if I see it, I'm going to expose it to you again. And I'm going to put you in those situations, not all the time,
Yeah.
but where
Why is that? Why is that? Not all the time. Because they need to get some success to feel that.
Success, yes, but
Or-
there also has to be some type of training stimulus. Like,
Yeah.
there's no training stimulus if I load up 1,000 pounds on a prowler and you're not moving it. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
come on. Like, there has to be – I have to get some type of conditioning in there.
Appreciate
And the stimulus has to be provided in order for you to grow and adapt from it. And then the stimulus will grow the next week. But then there are some days where I'm just like, you know what? F it. We're gonna make them fail. We're gonna see how they respond to a situation like this. It'll start with the prowler, more weight. Hey, you just got to push this 5 yards. You ain't pushing it a yard. I know that because I tried to do it. Like I loaded on, I pushed. I was like, yeah, they ain't moving that. But just to be sure, let's throw one more on there.
Right.
You know.
I like that because I was telling Dustin this before. Like I started training some of the high school kids because of my son, and we're kind of deemed like a softer community by the outside, I would say. So it's like I didn't grow up here, so I didn't really like subscribe to that. None of us really did. But, the kids, though, they hear that shit from the other schools, the country schools that come in and try to beat the rich school or whatever it is. And so I think our gym's very necessary in this town. I've always thought that. And then when the kids started getting a little bit stronger and they started going at the bigger weights, and I started seeing like how they're walking up with that fuck it, I unrack it, I can make it type thing, which is what I'm trying to preach to them, and not that already defeated, man, this is heavy, looking at the bar, like that like mentality of just going at it. And to me, that failure is okay. The guys are there to spot you. You know what I mean? And so that was one of the things that I saw some of the kids, like that little bit of confidence curve. And then I started seeing it on the field in baseball. Yeah. And so I'm like probably the most proud of those moments. And so when you see the kids overcome that,
it's
and
amazing.
then exactly, that's what that's a long-winded way I was trying to get to.
Yeah,
it's very gratifying
it's
as a
amazing.
strength coach.
It's amazing because half the kids, they're not here to lift weights.
Yeah,
they want to play the sport, and you expose them something they're not comfortable with.
Yeah,
and they don't have a choice; they got to do it. And when they figure it out, the look on their face, like, oh shit, I can do this. It's like, yeah, it is gratifying.
Big time.
So what I hear there, saying you're soft or whatever, that's lazy coaching.
Yeah,
it's lazy coaching, right? There, you're not thinking hard enough. Like once again, football's obvious, right? You're a warrior if you're putting pads on, or you're not right in the head, as your dad said. But most sports, if you're going to put yourself out there, Dustin talks about wrestling, being in a singlet, one-on-one. Like if you're willing to do that, you have a little toughness in you. And I think coaches who quickly go to that, I don't know.
I think people are running to stand in at 90 either. You know what I'm saying? Like
there's a grown man throwing a baseball out there. And if you got a bat in your hand and you're a pitcher, like we're trying to hit the ball right back through the box at your forehead, right? Like, it takes a bit of courage to do that. But I just think coaches get lazy when they quickly go to he's soft.
I think I mean, I've made that mistake before too. Is I've seen someone's habits in the weight room or seen when they fold under pressure, and I kind of look at them as like they're soft, they're not tough or whatever. But you're right. If you're playing football, if you're wrestling or whatever, you are tough. But I think you hit the nail on the head. You can be tough and still be mentally weak in the moment. Yeah. And that's why the weight room, that's why the prowler, that's why it can be fixed. Yeah. I mean, because they're probably at their core, they're tough. They want to be competitive. But when they're in those kind of fight or flight moments, they might be giving in to the weakness. And that's why
you have to learn not to.
You have to learn not to. You have to train yourself not to. You got to go to deep water and make yourself swim. Don't drown.
I love that deep water.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. You got sometimes you got to take them to deep water.
Oh yeah.
And just, hey, I'm leaving you here. Figure it out. Sink or swim.
You're either gonna swim to shore or you're gonna sink.
Yeah. Either which way, regardless whether you sink or swim, we're still gonna be here to make sure the next time you succeed. It's okay to fail. You have to know what failure feels like. We look back at. And when we talk back on struggle, you have to know what struggle feels like. You have to know what failure feels like to piss you off enough to not want to feel that again. It's the same thing in losing the game. You're pissed off when you lose a game. And you can't forget that feeling. Yeah, they say short-term memory, but there has to be something in you that thinks about it like, I'm not feeling this way ever again. Or you look back at our last game of the season, we lost to Tennessee 56-0. And I'm still pissed off from that game.
Yeah, I mean, failure is a greater motivator than success.
Yeah, you learn the lessons are all within the times where you mess shit up.
Yeah, you learn.
Not when it's all coasting.
No, you can't. You don't. You learn from opportunities of growth come when your back's against the wall.
Facts. Try away.
So I want to go back a couple of steps when you're talking about changing the culture, right? Everyone wants to talk about, we changed the culture, we changed the standard. What's step one? Like, how do you get these guys to change from who they are to who you want them to be? You want them to be a brotherhood. You want them to be accountable. How do you start that?
It's sacrificing. They have to sacrifice something, whether it's, shirts tucked, whether it's sound off on everything. You got 5 guys up in a line, 4 guys sounded off, go back and do it again. Sprint down to the line, come around, toes behind the line. One guy's toes are just a hair on the line, go back. Do it again. We'll be out here all day. And it's just making sure they pay attention to those little details. Those little details turn into big details, big things. And establishing that culture, it gets to a point where your teammates get pissed off about it.
Yep.
And yeah, I can cuss you out and MF you and all this, but at a certain degree, it'll work for some guys. It won't work for other guys. So it's going to come down to making them focus on the little details. And you can't stray away from those details. Something as little as when you're finished at your rack, it has to look the same way it does when you came in. Clips on the 25s, Olympic bar to the left, power bar in the rack, Vanderbilt logo up, handles lined up. There's chalk on the rack, wipe it down. It has to all line up. It's your space. Take care of it. And that's where that culture begins. And when you're looking at it, you're detailed in your work in a warm-up, you're detailed in your work in the weight room, you're going to be detailed in your work on the field. It's all going to translate together. Those little details are what matter.
I got to ask you, so, I'm believing in you as you speak, and I just want to know how you handled your small school guy, blah, 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 blah. The first time you talked to a SEC athlete like that, you didn't even pause when you were saying that, but I can tell you sometimes my doubts, fears, and insecurities of where I played, where I'm from. Mm-hmm. Like, do you have a tough time? Did you have a tough time ever saying, hey, to that SEC athlete, hey, your toes are on the line, go back and do it again?
No,
never. You never flinched ever in your career. Like
when I first started,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. As an intern, yeah. I'm intern at University of Iowa, like this was my first time in Division I setting, and this is a Power 5 setting. And I chose this internship because I'm like, if I succeed here, this is going to set me up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The whole reason why I went to Springfield College was because they had the best strength program in the country. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep applying until I get in. And when I interviewed on the phone with University of Iowa, I told them, no, this is the only internship I'm applying to. Like, this is it.
I like
this
that.
Is what I want because I want Power 5 football.
There's no plan B.
I want that. There can't be. And that was the exposure I wanted. And my advisor was like, this is what you want? I'm like, yeah, I don't have a plan B. That's it. This is what we got to do. And so getting there was nerve-wracking. You know, I don't want to fail. I don't want to look like an idiot in front of these coaches. But and it was nerve-wracking at first. You know, I'm looking at guys who are bigger, faster, stronger than I am, and like they don't know me, you know, from Adam. And it was establishing the relationship with them. I can't just come in off the street and MF a kid or yell at a kid. There has to be a certain type of relationship, I believe, established. You know, I have to show him, like, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to help you. And if you don't believe that now, that's fine. But I'm going to make you believe it. I'm going to make you believe that I'll run through a wall for you any day of the week, head first. And if that son of a bitch doesn't come down the first time, I'm going to keep going until it does. Because I want the same from you. I have to have the same from you. Because if we don't have that relationship, this won't work. You know, it just won't. I can't have you do something to the full T, to your full potential, because you just won't care. You know, they don't know how much, or they don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care about them.
For sure.
And that's where it came down to. Like, that's what I learned from it, is just building the relationships with them. And then that's exactly how they're going to listen to you.
That's so cool.
Touch on, you obviously lived the life, which is another reason why it was so easy to say, come on, because I see all the stuff on your Instagram and, you know, you've been tagging us. So I've been aware of you for a while. It's like, you know, obviously when guys get old, they might not be messing around with it, but you're not missing workouts. This is my perception. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but you're not missing workouts. You're challenging yourself. You're still pushing iron. Like that, obviously, I think it plays a huge point that the kids can go on your IG in 1 second and see that too. That coach is watching me front squat, you know, 315. I just saw on his Instagram, and I saw you this morning, front squat 365. Like a baseline of that expectation has always been really important to my business and me personally as a trainer. So maybe you could speak on that, because I think that that's a massive value.
Yeah, I mean, I can't expect you to front squat or do a complex or a gauntlet outside unless I've done it, unless you've seen me do it.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, Instagram's great because all our players will follow us. They can see on Instagram. Or if we get there at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning, we got workouts at 6. I know I got to start training at 4, be done by 5, so I can just get prepared, get ready for the lift groups for the next 6 hours. And they see it. And a lot of guys who come in for rehab early will see it. They'll be like, man, what time did you get up this morning? I'm like, a 20-minute drive. Got to walk the dog. Probably got up at like 3:15.
Yeah.
And that's every day.
And they're, well, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
they're looking at me like I'm batshit insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then
like,
there's a respect that comes from, and you're prepared for the lift. It's all wrapped together.
And I have to look the part. I got to be able to do it. Otherwise, you're telling me. And there's going to be a day where I can't front squat 365.
Yeah.
No time soon.
I was just about to say, I don't think it's real. I don't think it's
real
real close.
But there's gonna be.
I've been trying to push that day off for a while, bro.
That day is gonna come. I'm not gonna be able to clean. I'm not gonna be able to hit a pistol squat. I'm not gonna be able to do some of the things, but the training's still gonna be there, and they gotta see it.
Yeah.
You know, why am I gonna listen to you when you don't do any of this yourself? Like, why are you gonna tell me to do this? Why are you getting on my ass when I don't see you do anything?
Yeah.
You know,
you don't leave room for that conversation, which is what I
be.
think. And that's how Dustin and I have like approached this our entire careers, which is probably half of why you're here too. You know what I mean? Because you see that's how we operate. And I think that that's a little lost here and there nowadays. I think that that's why when there's a group, there's a certain amount of these strength guys that still compete. They're still pushing their bodies no matter what ages. It's just, I think it's just a different respect factor at the end of the day.
I mean, I have respect for coaches who are in their 60s and 70s still training.
Hell
lifting
yeah.
and squatting. I'm like, shit, that's what I
This
I
is
think,
what we do,
I
bro.
forgot who it was. I saw someone who was like 70 squat like 500 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's going to be me.
That dude from UNLV just pulled 700. Philippi, one of the guys Serrano messes with for years. The dude's like an OG in the strength community. Coach Storms from FSU learned from him. Dude been chasing 700 his whole career. Got one new hip, pulled conventional 700. And you see all these OG strength guys that looked up to him like pow 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 pow, still living it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just think that's part of this is who we are.
Yeah, it's a level of respect.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand. You look at it, be like, yeah, and that is. Like, that's hope for us.
Hell yeah.
When I see that, I was like, well, if I have a knee replacement in my future, I hope to still squat this much or hope to still pull this much. Like, it gives us a sense of hope, too.
I think so. You want to speak on that, D?
No, I mean, there's not too many beliefs that I hold more, kind of dear in, like, than the fact that you have to lead by example and that the respect level is going to be different from your athletes than if you show them that you're willing to do what they do and be in the trenches with them. Now, with you, probably the setup's a little bit different. You got so many athletes, you can't actually train, with them. But for years, that's what I did at Ohio State. Is I would actually train with the strength groups. But yeah, I just think it's so important. Maybe even the most important thing. I think it's more important than the X's and O's because if those athletes don't believe in you and respect you in that way, they're not gonna get the same thing out of the workouts. They're not gonna follow your lead in the same way. So it's the most important thing for a strength coach, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, because at the end of the day, I think we can all agree practical application is a pretty important part of this. That you can, and you got all the letters by your name. I seen it all on your IG. You got all of them, bro.
That's all for show.
Hey, but no, the squats for show. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is that the practical application mixed with that is what I think can make an elite guy. And I think it gets lost on both sides. I'm more on the practical application side because I don't got the letters by, so I have to be really on this side. But when you mix both of them, when Dustin got the CSCS, his, that accreditation took him another notch, and then he's at a university, and he got the practical application, and he's in the trenches with the guys. How many Big Tens? 3?
We won 3 Big Ten titles.
And 1 national title.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The only national title there that they ever won in wrestling. So it's like, my point is that I think that's the secret sauce, which I believe you got, dude, because that application and that respect is something the letters by your name ain't getting you. It just isn't. Because nobody wants a fucking nerd that don't lift weights that's going to tell them how to do shit if they don't think they can do it. It's just a fucking fact.
Yeah, famous words from Keyshawn Hayes. He said, I never trust a strength coach that got a beer belly and skinny arms.
Yeah. Hey, Coach Storms, I was helping Coach Storms lose some weight with the airball fasting. He told me, I ain't trying to get below 240. I can't have my arms too skinny. So I don't care if I deadlift 600 or not, he said. But anyway, go ahead, Trevor.
Well, the other part of that is we're still dealing with young athletes, right? And they're still looking for someone to look up to.
Hell yeah.
And you're that person in a lot of instances. I know, coaching soccer kids, they're not known for being strength athletes. But when I took over as the assistant coach and they see me on my Instagram, like a lot of coaches are like, yeah, I don't let my players follow me. I'm not hiding anything. I want them to see that. I want them to interact with that and see that these are the things that I'm doing, to know that it's possible. Because growing up, I had a coach who was overweight. You know, he was just there. He'd sit on his truck bed, drink his coffee, and be like, hey, you're kicking the ball wrong. Well, why don't you come out here and do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we all need that person that we can look up to. And, you know, even if you, you know, have that father figure at home, you still need someone that's kind of close to your age, kind of showing you the ropes, who's been through it recently, who can kind of, you know, help you navigate those waters. And, you know, that's the thing that, you know, you post in your squats on Instagram. You're dealing with all these kids who want to get stronger. They want to be better athletes. They want to do this. And they see you doing it. It's like, well, I don't have an excuse not to do it if you're doing it.
Yeah, and it's not just that. I think that plays a key aspect of it. And when I post different stuff, like guys will just like comment on it or tell me the next day, hey, coach, nice pistol squats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, thanks, man. But I think it's, you know, it's just a trust factor. You know, it's building and cultivating that relationship, that looking at them and saying, like, this is not just an athlete. Like, this is someone's son. This is someone's daughter. And I'm not just going to talk to you about weightlifting. I'm not just going to talk about X's and O's. Like, what class do you have next? Oh, I got sociology. All right, when you come back tomorrow, tell me 3 things you learned from sociology. Or I got an exam at 3 o'clock today. I mean, you going to ace it? Yeah, I'm going to ace it. Are you sure? All right, come back and show me that you aced the exam. It's showing, like, okay, he doesn't just care about lifting weights. Like, or football, he cares about me as a person, as a student. Because the reality of it, less than 1% of these kids are going to play in the NFL.
Yep.
You have to have something, an idea of what you are going to do when this ends. Because if you don't, you take it from me, like, you're freaking out. Mm-hmm. Like, when football was over for me, I was like, I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. I went in wanting to be a teacher, history teacher. And I was like, no, I don't really want to be a history teacher. I was like, all right, I'll do physical therapy. It's too boring. I'm like, shit, what am I going to do now? If football's over, then what? And then football did end after 3 years. And I had no idea what I was going to do. And it was my strength coach who saw that I would ask questions. I took a liking. I was a meathead. Like, I wanted to be in the weight room. I stayed for 30 minutes after the lift, do extra dips, do extra arms. And he saw that and was like, do you want to work in here? And as hard as it was, I'm like, yeah, like, I want to learn this. You know, it'd be cool. I don't care if I'm cleaning plates or wiping stuff down. But he saw that and said, okay, I'm going to take him under my wing. He's by far my biggest mentor. He is the whole reason why I'm here, because he went to the head coach. He saw the frustrations I had. He's the first person I went and talked to. When I made the decision and I was like, I'm not going to let a doctor tell me I'm done playing football. I was talking to my parents, talking with my family. You know, they're just like, listen, it's your decision what you want to do. Well, I don't know what I want to do. Like, it's a hard decision. I went right to my strength coach. Just something innate told me I got to go talk to Coach Dean. And sitting there talking to him before our dinner in camp, he was like, I feel like I'm quitting. He was like, well, let me ask you something. Can you still shuffle 5 yards the same way you were before? I'm like, no. He goes, can you turn around and open up into the flats or into the curl the same way you did? I'm like, no. Well, you're not quitting. You just physically can't do it anymore. And it was from that point on, like, when we traveled to games, when I was a student coach, like, I was by him the whole time. I was with him the whole time. He kept me close to him. He told me about Springfield College. We interviewed a guy from Springfield College, one of our assistant positions, and Dean told me, I want you to go pick him up from the airport. And the airport from his hotel was like 5 minutes away. And I remember him telling me he's from Springfield College. And then just walked away. So I turned that 5-minute drive into a 25-minute drive, just driving.
I like that strategy.
You know, I was like, I'm just going to ask him questions. This dude is now the director of basketball strength and conditioning, Sean Conity, at Mizzou. And it was him. Like, he's like, I'm going to lay it out for you because I care about you, and I want you to have some idea and purpose of what you're going to do. If this is what you want to do, go do it. And that's what they need. Like, whether they see it or not, whether they care or not, there has to be a sense of, I give a shit about the person you are. You know, damn football. Like, football is going to be gone someday. Yes, that's important to my success. If we win games, I have a job. If we lose games, right here, we lose jobs. Exactly what happened to me. But at the end of the day, you're still someone's son, someone's daughter. And when I go to a school, I tell my wife this all the time. If our kids ever go play collegiately, if we're blessed enough to have kids, I don't care about anything else. I care about the strength coach. If the strength coach doesn't know his own staff members' names, doesn't know how to pronounce his own staff members' names, they're not going there because they're going to spend the most time with them. They're going to be influenced by them. That's their leader. And if I don't agree with them, I don't care how good the school is. I don't care how good the program is. Nah, not doing it.
This meant to be a 2-part show, by the way.
Man,
yeah.
Dropping some good knowledge, bro.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And man, we could end it right there, but I have just
Deacon's always good for one or two.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm sorry. I get to talk to a great person.
Yeah.
I want to go. So what we saw in the NFL game a couple weeks ago, Jets, Bills, Hamlin goes down. Can you just give us a little insight of what's going on in the sidelines? Like, to me, that was I have my own narrative to that, but we've talked about it, dealing with Warriors. You see guys get hurt. It's what you see all the time. That day you saw Warriors, grown men crying, bawling. Like, could you just when you saw that, did you feel like a response to that because you are on the sidelines? Can you just tell me what you felt when you saw that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the play happen, so I turned on the TV. I got home late. My wife and I got home late. I turned on the TV, and it's just suspended. And I'm thinking, okay, someone might have just, it might have been a serious injury, but I'm like, for suspension, no. But just watching the hit, looking at that, it just, like, at the end of the day, they're still humans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can call them warriors, you can say whatever you want.
They're human beings.
They're human beings that can get hurt, that something can happen to them. And to me, it's just like, this is a freak accident, and we didn't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's a nurse, and I was trying to explain it to her. I showed her the video. I was like, what do you think happened? And she was like, he might have got hit in the chest. I'm like, yeah, but how?
Mm-hmm.
How can that happen from hitting in the chest? And we figured out how, in between heartbeats he gets hit, and it's just like that millisecond or 2-3 milliseconds.
A timing that's only happened once in NFL history, essentially.
It
out of all these years.
And it may not happen again, or it may happen again in another 60, 70 years.
Yeah.
But it can happen. And it just makes you appreciate the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you appreciate, like, life. And then, honestly, like, you're trying to make sure that you're there for the athletes that are actually playing the game. Because they're tearing up not only because, hey, this is my brother on the field, but, holy shit, this could actually happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is more than football. This is life. Like, I got a family. I got a wife. I got kids. Mm-hmm. Like, could this happen next week and then I leave them? It's just being there, comforting them. There's not really anything hopeful at that moment you can say because you don't know what's
mm-hmm.
happening. But afterwards, it's, look, this is a freak accident, and this is why you have plans in place. I mean, we do it. We do training twice a year, emergency action training. And it's not relevant to us as strength coaches because they're like, you guys will have sideline control. But we're learning that if something happens on the field, these are the signals to look for.
Mm-hmm. Made those trainings probably a little bit more real now, right?
Yeah.
100%. Instead of going, we got to do this
You're going to be paying attention
I was the first to say, like, I was spine boarding somebody. It's just like, through practice. And I'm thinking to myself, I never want to spine board somebody. Like, I never want to hold someone's cervical spine.
Yeah.
But if it has to happen, if I have to be the one to do it, it's like, okay, I'm doing it. But, like, there's more emergency action plans in place, which is what they did. And just reassuring our guys, like, look, we all go through this training. Sports med, the doctors from the hospital, there's emergency action crews there,
mm-hmm.
and then we as strength coaches are there. And it puts in a different perspective, like, this is, like, yeah, this could happen, and we have to be prepared for it
mm-hmm.
to happen.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
It was, I have a little man that plays football, and I was about to cry just watching because I saw how scared them guys were. I told Rachel when that happened, and I watched the hit, and I know somebody that had some heart problems like this. They were born with it, but it was similar to what they were kind of explaining. Before they even said, anything about the CPR. I saw Josh Allen's face, and he looked petrified.
Oh, his hands are just like this. Like he doesn't know
And the
what's
other guys are
happening.
crying, and I looked at Rachel and I said, "This kid might die, Ray." She's like, "You think so?" I said, "Something." And this is before they said they were doing. They were watching the CPR at the time, but they hadn't announced it yet. It was terrifying. And my kid got smashed by a bigger kid last year, or 2 years ago, and broke his collarbone. And I was afraid it was his neck whenever because he don't ever just lay there. And he's it's a tough kid. And when he didn't get up, and I was thinking to myself, so I mean, you just have all those feelings because there is that risk, and there's a lot of kids that haven't got up, dude, that you don't hear about. That DeMar obviously I think shed some light on that, and thank God he's okay. But it's real, and so yeah, taking that really serious, and just like all the stuff they're trying to put in place, but the guys keep getting bigger and faster and stronger.
Yeah,
and the pads can only adapt so much. This ain't Jack Lambert 205 in 1975 no more, bro.
No, you got a 235-pound linebacker running the 4.4 40, 4.5 40.
That's
coming
what I'm saying,
straight
bro.
down the middle. If he comes untouched, man, he's lighting you up.
It's different now.
It is. It is. And let me ask you this. It's interesting you say that because my wife is not. I told my wife about all the injuries I've had playing.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing were concussions. And my wife.
Well, they didn't track them real well probably
No,
back
they
then.
didn't.
I
They
think I had a
didn't.
few of those too.
And I could probably win an Academy Award for the acting job I gave
I'm
for
sure,
concussions,
yeah.
like it's just like.
How
no,
many fingers
I'm
am I
good.
holding up? Okay,
good.
you're good. Go
I
back
used
in.
to in like 8th grade. I used to just spear kids with my helmet, dude. Like they didn't have any
I
rules.
led with it every time.
Yeah.
I led.
I'm telling you, like I used to like it sounds bad, almost like pride myself on that. Like that dude come through and I would just
Yeah, it's a kill shot.
Yeah.
Right down. If guys coming on a drag route and I'm linebacker, I'm coming in. I'm like, yeah, that's a kill shot. And
Yeah.
my junior year, we saw like the rules of targeting, and I'm reading it, and I'm not playing this season. And thank God I wasn't playing this season because I'm looking at the rules like, that's targeting.
yeah
I do this shit every day.
yeah.
And so my wife is not big on it. So did you? I guess before you had kids, did you still think, okay, I may have this fear that if my son wants to play football, like this may be like.
So
this
my
legit fear?
older son quit after like the second year of pads, and then is baseball, all baseball, right? And then, but I didn't say like you have to play football, right? He's fast, but I could just tell like that aggressiveness is not really his thing. But you put him on the mound, he's calm as a cucumber, and he handles himself really well. The younger one's more aggressive. Dustin will tell you probably should be a wrestler.
He should be.
It's
100%.
it's real natural, right?
Yeah.
But then after he broke his collarbone that year specifically, I know all he wants to do is watch football, play football, have me throw him the football when he's on the trampoline, have me throw him the football in the front room. That's all we do. That's all we do, right? And now he wants to beat me in a race. That's his whole thing. But then the year he broke his collarbone, he came to me and he acted like he didn't want to play, and I made him play, and then he breaks his fucking collarbone. So then after he breaks his collarbone, he gets back from it. If he would have came to me and said, I don't want to play, I would. But I know he loves it. I'm not making this up. It's just him.
No, I believe.
But
you.
then when there was other coaches, wasn't me, it wasn't Dad, asking like, "You playing this year?" Andon, da da da. And then he was like wishy-washy for a second or two, and then it just clicked 100% yes. So it was his idea, and he had a good season, good linebacker, whatever. But I can't not remember how I felt because I'm not the dad that rushes on the field when my kid gets hurt.
Yeah.
I let them handle it at
They have
first.
to,
Now, if it's
yeah.
serious, which this was, because he didn't get up, and I saw the way it was popping out of his collar, like that it was real. But yeah, I don't know. It's tricky because I talked to a lot of NFL guys. We have a lot of NFL guys that come through here. They don't want their kids to play football. And I've heard Beanie kind of talk about that, but then his kids are balling now because they got
They're really
older.
good, yeah.
They're really good. So it's like one of those things where if he showed that I know that he loves it and wants to, and I wouldn't want to push him, but yeah, I mean, if he really showed that he didn't, I probably wouldn't push him because of the risk.
Yeah.
But if you love it and you're thinking about it, and that's you,
You can't hold him back.
can't hold him back, dude.
No.
So
I agree.
that's kind of where I sit on it. You know what I mean? It's tough though because those things. I mean, I'm a big Inky Johnson fan too. He had that thing happen at UT. There's a million of those type of like things that we don't know. I mean about, and so it is scary still, and they're not getting any smaller. We're doing a better job at our job, which is creating guys that are already studs. I asked D'Angelo was here yesterday. It's a DB coach down at Ohio University. Everybody in his room runs 4.4 in the MAC.
In the MAC.
He said everybody in my room runs 4.4.
I mean,
Every kid.
that's the position now.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is so now they're not looked at as a big, they're not SEC. That used to be only there. That's not how it is no more. So it's just like, I don't know, shit has just changed. But that's why I think we're seeing more and more of this stuff happen because the bodies weren't meant to collide 245, 4.4, full speed untouched.
No, not at all. Football was not a sport. Like, football is not a contact sport. It's a collision sport.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
soccer and basketball are contact sports, but football is a collision sport, and the human body was not designed to do that. No matter how much padding you put on, the human body, no helmet was there to protect it. You can put the Guardians on a helmet like do now, but
we have all that, but it still don't matter.
that doesn't do anything. That just protects you during practice, but what happens during the game?
Yeah.
You're not wearing Guardians. You got to find every which way possible to just build that suit of armor around them because they're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
But how can you reduce that risk of them getting
Is
hurt?
it safer now than ever as far as, you mentioned, like, because I always think back to, when we were growing up, there was 3 days. They do the camps and all that.
Gotta have 3 days in your pads.
Yeah, 3 in pads,
Yeah,
full
yeah,
hitting,
yeah.
Oklahoma drills. And I
Yep.
think I hear from at least our football staff how a lot of that has gone away. Like
Yeah.
you don't see as much collisions in practice. Like do you feel in some ways it's safer now than ever or no because of what you guys just talked about, the speed, the size?
To say it's safer,
Don't like that wording?
yeah, I would say that,
I think it's less safe than it's ever been.
and I would agree with that to the extent that
Purely because of the humans stronger
Exactly.
and faster. I don't think it has anything to do with the equipment.
genetically, like, these guys
Yeah,
have just
they're different,
grown.
bro.
And I think that you have to adapt. I think it's adapted well to the sport. Now
Because
you
it never could stand up now. If you with these size of athletes,
No,
like if you
no.
did that, you're done, right?
I mean, you look at it now. Like, I'll look at our guys, and we don't have Oklahoma drills and anything. And I look at them like, how the hell did we do 2 padded practices a day, 6 a.m. and 4 p.m. and full contact all the way through? We went full contact all the way through the season. And I'm like, and I'm looking at this like we're tackling on a Thursday, and we got a game on Saturday. And I'm like, how the hell did we even play on Saturday?
So it's probably the protocol has gotten safer.
Yes.
But the sport has gotten inherently more dangerous because the athletes are bigger, stronger, faster.
And you're only you can only make the sport but so much safer. You call it what it is. Football is football. Like,
Yeah.
And athletes can say, I understand the risk. And me, with all the injuries I had, with all the concussions I had, if you ask me to go back if I do it again, yes.
Giddy up.
There's not a doubt in my mind if a genie came down and told me that I'll give you the youth you were when you were 18 years old, if you want to go play again, yeah, I'm doing it. No hesitation.
Yeah.
Just like that, I'm saying yes. Let's go. Let's ride.
On the last podcast, Bourne said the same thing. My dad used to tell, because his dad played at Michigan, my dad used to tell me to give my left nut to give out there and play against Ohio State again. You know what I mean? And he's like, I used to think, Dad, whatever, you crazy old man. He's like, I'm in the stadium thinking the same thing now. So I think
cool.
I think if once you're a football guy, you're always a football guy.
Yeah, it's hard. Unless barring from anything freak happening to you, it's hard to get that. It's hard to take that away
Yeah.
from you.
I would argue that you don't want to. Because it contributes, you know what I mean, to why you're so good at your job.
It does. I like to think that I'm good at my job, and and that's where that passion comes from too.
Yep.
There has to be. You have to understand the sport. You have to play the sport. There has to be some type of passion from it. Because to be honest with you, like I'm living vicariously through our guys. Like I don't get to play anymore. You see like pickup games of soccer being played. Guys who played soccer in college and lacrosse, and you have softball and baseball games. I'm telling you right now, at 31 years old, I'm not putting on shoulder pads and a helmet again and running into another human being. Like, I don't know how my body would sustain that because over time it just starts to break down. And all the training and everything, I'm doing everything I can to make sure I can play with my kids whenever we have kids. And, I'm not in a walker when I'm 60 years old or a knee replacement when I'm 45, 50 years old. But, it's just you're living vicariously through them. And I would tell my wife, like, I'm not going to force it on them, but if they want to play, I can't tell them no.
Nah,
They're going to have to figure that out on their own. The first time they get hit, they're going to know whether they want to play or not.
Oh, yeah, I think you figured it out real quick.
Figured out right. I remember I was in college, and I wanted to leave after my first year of college. My mom never wanted me to play football. She was like, no, like, you're not doing it. no, I don't want you getting hurt. My dad was pushing it. 5th grade finally came. Didn't help. I got my first concussion in 5th grade, but I practiced the very next day.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but I remember saying like, no, I'm homesick. I want to come home and everything. And she just said, yeah, you can, but that's not who you are. I've been trying to get you to quit football every single year, and here she is trying to convince me not to
stay.
quit football.
Yeah.
So I was like, that said something, and to me that spoke wonders for her, because she knew how much I would have regretted it, and I would have regretted it.
Yeah, been a different trajectory.
Yeah, being away from home for the first time and everything, and tell my wife the same thing. I'm like, yeah, it's a scary sport. I would hope they play baseball. The money's in baseball right
Yeah,
now.
no shit.
But if they want to play football, the only non-negotiable there is, whatever sport you play, I'm training your ass.
Yeah. I like that. That's a great way to close it right there. Well, this is Coach's Clinic Podcast. It was awesome having you on. Coach Deegan, Coach Treadway, Coach Myers. I'm your boy, Corey G. Fahad. Hey, where's the social media? Where can they get you at?
At Coach Fahad J. FAHDJ.
All right, man. We're going to get you swagged out. Make sure you get some MaxEffortMuscle.com supplements. And we are out.